Hello, I made a throwaway account for more anonymity. My mom, 67 years old, recently got into a car accident driving home from my sister's apartment, and I'm blaming my sister for it. My sister, 38 years old, has a 10-month-old baby. She had the baby because she was getting older and didn't want to lose her chance at being a mother. The father is her former friends with benefits, who agreed to have a baby with her, but stated he wouldn't be emotionally or financially active in the baby's life. He already has a son he's not involved with. My sister said she didn't care who the baby is with, and if the father is in the baby's life, she just wanted a baby to raise. She said she can do it all by herself, but it became obvious that she severely underestimated how hard it would be. Not only is she a single mother to a newborn, she also has a full-time job and is struggling financially. My mother has been co-raising the baby. She drives over 2 hours away every few days to take care of the baby so my sister can rest. She has also been giving my sister money every month. My mom has expressed to me several times that she feels like she was forced into this role and she can't turn her back on my sister while she's struggling. My mom still works full-time and she was supposed to retire soon, but now it's all up in the air. She had plans to travel the world, and now she has to postpone her retirement plans because she feels obligated to help co-parent my sister's baby. My mom is a decent driver and doesn't usually get into accidents. However, she has gotten into 6 minor car accidents since the baby was born because she's tired from babysitting, and my sister lives so far away. My mom is an older woman, and she gets tired more easily. She shouldn't be exerting herself so hard. And I tell my mom that, but she doesn't listen, and of course my sister doesn't say anything to her. My sister also refuses to move back home, even though it would save money and relieve some stress from our mom. Last week, my mom got into a big car accident. Her car flipped over, and she's been in the hospital since then. She broke her back and has a bad concussion. She has trouble remembering short-term things now. I don't know what my mom's life will look like once she gets discharged from the hospital. Yesterday, I blew up on my sister and told her it's her fault that our mom is like this. I told her if she wasn't so selfish, considered the people around her and made better choices, this could have been prevented. I'm just so upset. I feel like my mom deserved to live her retirement in peace, and my sister stole that from her. My sister started crying, and my uncle told me I was wrong for this. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. With all kindness for your situation, you're the a-hole. At the end of the day, no matter the circumstances, your sister did not directly cause the car accident, and putting the blame on her is not fair. Your mother sounds like a wonderful parent who would put her dreams on the back burner for her children's wants and needs. I do think a compromise should have happened to limit your mom's driving hours while tired. For example, could she not have slept over? Could she have gone for a few days at a time and then taken a break? Or maybe offered to help your sister with daycare expenses? There seems to have been a lot of solutions that your mom and sister could have come up with, but continued to do this. Your mom is an adult, and the choice was ultimately hers. It is not your sister's fault because she got overwhelmed in new motherhood and needed help. No reason to put the blame on her for this. All the best to your mom, and hoping for a full recovery. Comment 2. First of all, I'm very sorry for the situation that your family is now in, and I hope that your mom can make a full recovery. Unfortunately, I have to say, you're the a-hole. In my opinion, 99% of what you wrote here is irrelevant. And it's irrelevant because the simple fact is that your mom is an adult who has chosen to step in to help raise this child. Now, your sister may have indeed been irresponsible in her choices, but your mom chooses to continue to help your sister out. Yes, I know you said that she feels forced, but in reality, if she really didn't want to or really couldn't, she could stand up and tell your sister no. Your sister is not responsible for your mom getting in a car accident. I'm not saying that your mom is responsible either. I don't know the circumstances surrounding it, but the accident itself is not on your sister. And I think you were the a-hole for blaming her for it. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a week since I last posted about the situation with my mom and sister, and a lot has happened. I wanted to give you all an update because the last post got a lot of attention, and I guess I just need to vent. So, after the blow-up with my sister, things got really tense. My aunt and uncle, who had told me off for blaming my sister, stepped in to help with the baby. They've been taking turns staying with my sister to give her a break. It's kind of ironic, because they were the ones who had always been telling my mom to let my sister handle her own problems. But now that my mom's in the hospital, they're finally pitching in. My sister has been visiting mom in the hospital every day, looking really worn out. I can tell she's been reflecting on everything that's happened. She even started looking into daycare options, something she was totally against before because of the cost. I guess seeing mom hurt made her realize she can't do it all on her own. Mom's been recovering slowly. The doctors say she's lucky to be alive. Her memory issues are still there, but they're getting better. She's been talking about the accident a lot, trying to piece together what happened. It's been hard to see her like this, especially when she asks about her retirement plans, and we have to remind her that those are on hold. Now here's the jaw-dropping part. My sister's baby daddy showed up out of the blue. Turns out, he heard about the accident and felt guilty for not being involved. He's been coming to the hospital to see mom and even offered to help financially with the baby. My sister was shocked, to say the least. They had a big confrontation right there in the hospital cafeteria. Voices were raised, and my sister ended up telling him that it was too little too late. But after he left, she broke down. I think she's been holding in a lot of anger and disappointment towards him. In the midst of all this, I've been trying to make amends with my sister. I realized that while I was right to be upset, I shouldn't have blamed her the way I did. We had a long talk, and I apologized. She told me about how overwhelmed she's been feeling, how she thought she could handle being a single mom, but didn't anticipate how hard it would be. She admitted that she should have accepted more help and not relied so heavily on mom. We also talked about our childhood, how mom always had to work extra to support us after our dad left. My sister said she didn't want to be like him, always absent. That's why she's been trying so hard to do everything herself. It was a moment of honesty that we hadn't had in a long time. The biggest surprise came when my sister decided to take a leave of absence from her job. She's going to focus on the baby and figure out a more sustainable way to live. She's even considering moving closer to us, so mom won't have to drive so far once she's out of the hospital. As for me, I've been spending a lot of time at the hospital too. I've been helping mom with her memory exercises and just keeping her company. It's been tough, but it's also brought us closer. I've been taking care of her bills and making sure her insurance is covering everything. It's the least I can do after everything she's done for us. So that's where we are now. Mom's getting better, my sister's making changes, and the baby daddy, well, who knows with him. But at least he's shown some interest in being a part of his child's life, even if it's just a small part. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're all moving in the right direction. It's going to be a long road to recovery for mom, but we're all here for her. And my sister, well, she's finally starting to accept help and realize that it's okay to not do everything on her own. My ex dies and I'm broke. So I plan a cheap funeral, but a friend confesses to an affair with him, and now I'm left to mourn a man who cheated and a life full of lies alone. I, 28-year-old female, recently found myself in an extremely difficult situation after the passing of my ex-partner, 33-year-old female. We were in a relationship for 4 years, lived together, and broke up about 5 months ago due to her having severe depression, which was making me emotionally drained and was taking a toll on my own mental health. After the breakup, she went to the hospital and volunteered to admit herself so that she could get the help that she needed. However, my ex recently passed away, tragically. Unfortunately, my ex doesn't have any family or friends who are close enough to handle the responsibility of arranging this funeral, except a grandmother who is in an aged care facility. So the responsibility fell on me. I feel immense sadness over her death, but I don't want to arrange the funeral. For context, my ex battled depression for a long time. I was the primary caregiver. The emotional strain of supporting her through her hardest and darkest moments took a significant toll on me. I was the only one with a job, so now I have little to no funds to spare for this funeral anyway. This has left me reeling, and I am struggling to come to terms with it. I don't know what to do with this. I don't want to deny our mutual friends and community the opportunity to show love and find closure. But it feels like an enormous emotional and financial burden. I feel incredible guilt and shame for not stepping up to the plate. But I don't have it in me to not completely fall apart from arranging this funeral ceremony. So Reddit, am I the jerk for refusing to arrange my ex's funeral? Edit, to all the people who are saying I abandoned her when she was dealing with her depression, you guys don't know the whole story and all the facets. Why pass judgment? It was mutual, and she was as worried about me as I was about her, and we ended it for the sake of both of us, so she could fully commit to getting better without worrying about this relationship and stay in the hospital as long as she needed until her symptoms got better, and I could finally look after my mental health, which was screaming for help at that time. And I don't think any of you know what it is like to be someone's carer. Depression gets in the way of everyday life, causing tremendous pain, hurting not just those suffering from it, but also impacting everyone around them. It's not easy dealing with a partner or family member's depression. I neglected my own health for years, doing 2 jobs, one of which had an extremely toxic environment, but I couldn't afford to miss work or get fired. And on top of that, doing all the housework, including cooking for us after my shift and cleaning. And then gradually doing all the groceries, laundry, taking her to every appointment since she didn't drive, with no help. Neither from my family, because they don't approve of my intimacy orientation, nor her family, since again, she didn't have any close family or friends who would lend a helping hand when we were suffering in silence. And I did all of that for 3 years. I could count with my 2 hands how many sick leaves I took in those 3 years. And my ex was a wonderful person, which made all this worth it. But you all have to understand, I couldn't just snap out of my burnout and push through. There's a line which I crossed, and even to this day, I am recovering from 3 years' worth of loss, burnout, and trauma. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It doesn't have to be a funeral per se. I did a beautiful memorial for my dad, without the same costs associated with a traditional funeral. To be clear, you don't have to do anything, and no sane person would blame you either way. However, if you want to do this, it can be done for under about $1,500, Midwest USA. Just got to be a little crafty. I am here if you would like some tips and pointers. If not, I'm sending all the positive energy and hopes for healing. I'm very sorry for your loss and for all the trauma that comes with it. Sending you my best. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I don't understand you here though. You say there is nobody else, but then it denies people from saying goodbye. So there are people. This shouldn't be falling on you. You don't need to spend money you don't have for a funeral for someone who seemingly won't have attendance anyways. Now, for the update. Hey Reddit. A lot has happened since my last post. I never imagined I'd be back here with such a heavy heart and a story that's taken some unexpected turns. When I last wrote, I was grappling with the weight of my ex's passing and the responsibility of her funeral arrangements. I was already struggling with my own grief, and the financial burden was just too much. But things have only gotten more complicated since then. I decided to reach out to our mutual friends and explain the situation. I thought they'd understand my position, but I was met with mixed reactions. Some were supportive, but others couldn't believe I was considering not arranging the funeral. They didn't see the years of emotional labor, the nights I spent awake worrying, or the personal sacrifices I made. They just saw someone they cared about needing a proper send-off. One friend, let's call her Sarah, was particularly upset. She had been close to my ex before we started dating, and they had a history that I never fully understood. Sarah accused me of being heartless and selfish. She didn't know about the countless times I had to leave work to pick up my ex from somewhere because she was having a panic attack, or the way I had to carefully manage every aspect of our lives to avoid triggering her depression. The confrontation with Sarah was intense. We were at a local coffee shop, a place where my ex and I used to go to escape the world for a bit. Sarah's words stung, and I could feel the eyes of other patrons on us as our voices rose. It was a scene I never wanted to be a part of. But then, in the midst of our argument, Sarah dropped a news that left me reeling. She confessed that during one of the breaks my ex and I had taken to give each other space, she and my ex had rekindled their past and had a brief affair. My heart shattered right there. I had always suspected there was something more between them, but hearing it confirmed was a different kind of pain. The betrayal cut deep, not just because of the infidelity, but because it made me question everything about our relationship. Had my ex ever truly loved me, or was I just a caretaker in her eyes? The thought haunted me, and I found myself withdrawing from everyone, unable to deal with the flood of emotions. Despite the heartbreak, I knew I had to make a decision about the funeral. I couldn't afford it, and now, with the knowledge of the affair, it felt like an even heavier burden. But I also couldn't shake the feeling of responsibility. My ex had no one else, and I couldn't bear the thought of her not having a proper goodbye. In the end, I reached out to the grandmother in the aged care facility. She was frail and couldn't take on the arrangements herself, but she offered a small amount of money she had saved. It wasn't much, but it was enough to cover a modest service. I found a local funeral home that was willing to work within the budget, and we set a date. The day of the funeral was a blur. I stood at the back, watching as people filed in to pay their respects. Sarah was there, tearful and remorseful, but I couldn't bring myself to speak to her. I felt numb, disconnected from the scene in front of me. After the service, I went home alone. The apartment felt empty without my ex's presence, and the silence was suffocating. I sat on the couch, surrounded by memories, and let myself cry for the first time since her passing. I'm still trying to process everything that's happened. The betrayal, the loss, the confrontation, and the funeral have all taken their toll. I'm left with more questions than answers, and a heart that's trying to heal from a wound that's deeper than I ever imagined. My boyfriend's sisters ask about kids, and I say we're waiting to be ready, so they accuse me of judging their life choices, and Reddit agrees with me. But oh boy, the family drama that follows. Basically what the title says. My boyfriend, late 20s, and I, mid-20s, share finances. This is important for later on. His sister, late 20s, Mandy, is currently pregnant and recently came over to our apartment. She came over as her other sister, late 20s, Becca, was there to talk about her future baby boy. They asked me when I was planning to have kids, and I told them when I can afford them financially and am mentally, emotionally ready for them. My boyfriend already knows this and has agreed. Becca then proceeds to tell me that the aforementioned reasons aren't valid and that everything will work out in the end, and that kids are a blessing. I told her that's an irresponsible way of thinking, especially in this economy, and that if someone isn't prepared to have children, they shouldn't have them. I told her just because kids are a blessing to you doesn't mean that you are one to them. Just speaking in general and not pointedly at her. I went on to say that kids are not necessary, and if I never get to my standards that I feel are necessary to have kids, then I simply won't have them. I told them, I know what it's like to be a kid who was born in poverty, tossed around from one person to another because my mom was at work, and her still having more kids, knowing she couldn't afford the ones she already had. I should have thought twice about saying that, because that is Becca's exact situation with her kid right now. Her kid is mostly passed around by his grandmas and sees his parents one day out of the week as they both work late hours, and during that day, parents are on their phone or smoking flower. Becca starts getting insulted, saying that I think I'm better than her, and I responded that no, I don't. I just think kids deserve better than that, and that they shouldn't have to worry about money or where their food comes from. Mandy then comes at me saying, if I think she shouldn't have a kid. My boyfriend then hears the argument. He was doing Becca's oil change, and tells Mandy not to ask questions she doesn't want to know the answer to. Mandy pushes more, and I told her, I don't know how she thought it was a good idea to purposely get pregnant when she has no job and is constantly asking everyone for money because her baby daddy won't share finances with her, because she spends every dime she gets. Her baby daddy already told her he's only paying half of the child expenses and none of her bills. He expects her to get a job after 4 months postpartum. My boyfriend said that I didn't have to say it that harsh, but that he agrees with me. He told Mandy that no one was going to tell her not to have a baby, but that doesn't mean it was a good idea. Now both sisters are saying that I was insulting their children and lifestyles. They said I called my boyfriend's nephews bastards, which I never did and never will, because I am one, and that I'm stuck up. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Edit. It deleted my first edit. Mandy will come to our apartment to talk shit about how Becca's never with her kid. Becca will come to our apartment to talk shit about how Mandy is always broke but still buying luxuries. Their mom will talk to me and my boyfriend about how we should make better choices regarding creating a family than her daughter. Their mom is still financially supporting both of them, though Mandy lives with her baby daddy. My boyfriend and I lend Mandy money and have to cancel plans to take care of Becca's kid last minute. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. They kept pushing for an answer, and they got it. As a product of parents who were absolutely not prepared to have a child, I understand what you're coming from. Also, you explained your reasoning behind your personal life choices, and they flat out told you it wasn't good enough. They sound like the rude and judgmental ones. Comment 2. The truth hurts, maybe a bit blunt in the delivery, but I have no problems with the message. Hell, maybe I'm a jerk, but I don't have a problem with the delivery either. Not the idiot. Both sisters are jerks, though, for purposely having kids without having the means to do so, and then foisting the kids off on family while they mess around. Now, for the update. Hey Reddit, a lot has happened since my last post, and I've got to fill you in on the chaos that's unfolded over the past 3 days. After the blowout with Mandy and Becca, things cooled off for a bit. My boyfriend and I had a long talk about boundaries and how we need to handle family drama moving forward. We agreed that we wouldn't let family issues interfere with our relationship or financial decisions. That resolution was put to the test sooner than we expected. The next day, Mandy showed up at our door, unannounced, with bags under her eyes and a venti-sized coffee in her hand. She was fuming about Becca, saying she's always out buying new clothes for herself instead of saving for her kid. Mandy ranted about how irresponsible Becca was, all while ignoring the fact that she herself had just splurged on a designer diaper bag. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I bit my tongue. Later that afternoon, Becca came by, equally as furious. She complained about Mandy's constant borrowing of money and how she's living beyond her means. Becca was particularly incensed that Mandy had the nerve to criticize her parenting when she herself was relying on everyone else's financial support. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife, and my boyfriend and I exchanged worried glances, knowing this family feud was far from over. The following day, their mom called us. She was surprisingly calm and collected, considering the storm that was her daughter's. She confided in us that she hoped we'd make smarter choices than Mandy and Becca had. She admitted she was still helping them out financially, despite her own tight budget. It was a sobering conversation, and it reinforced our decision to stick to our own path. That evening, as we were about to head out for a much-needed date night, Becca called in a panic. She needed someone to watch her son last minute because her babysitter had cancelled. With a heavy sigh, we cancelled our reservations and prepared for a night in with our nephew. The next day, things took a turn for the steamy. My boyfriend and I were trying to make up for the lost date night with a little romance at home when we heard a knock at the door. It was Mandy, and she was in tears. She confessed that her baby daddy had found out about the money we lent her, and they had a huge fight. He accused her of cheating with my boyfriend because of the financial help we'd given her. It was a jaw-dropping accusation, and we were both stunned. My boyfriend quickly explained that the money was a loan, nothing more. Mandy's baby daddy had misunderstood their arrangement, thinking that my boyfriend was giving her money for other reasons. It was a mess of a situation, but after some heated discussion, we managed to clear up the misunderstanding. The drama didn't end there, though. Becca, who had come to pick up her son, overheard the tail end of the conversation and jumped to her own conclusions. She accused us of meddling in Mandy's relationship and causing unnecessary drama. It took all our patience to explain the situation to her, and even then, she left with a huff, clearly not convinced. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.